Welcome to Wonder Women, stories from the women who play bass. I've got a two-up interview today with Miss Jacqueline Pickett and Susan Hagen. Welcome, ladies. Welcome to, well, the column. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
Thanks,
us.
thanks for having us.
So, we had a special reason for a two-up interview today, and we're going to get to that in a little while. I want to call everyone's attention to the written interview that is attached to the video interview in this column. So you'll find out more about these ladies, their backstories, and a little bit about why we're here today. So, if you don't mind, I know some of our viewers may not know you though, and if you don't mind, do you mind introducing yourselves to them?
Sure. My name is Jacqueline Pickett. I am a double bassist, and I have three uh, main avenues that I work through. I am, of course, a performer, and I am involved in education. And most recently, these past 10 years, I've been heavily involved as a music activist. And for me, that means seeing how I can use my craft as an artist to bring about changes that I would like to see in the world. So, as a performer, I play double bass with two symphony orchestras, and I play with a festival orchestra, do summer music camps, and play a lot of new music because I am very interested in promoting composers and the different cultures that they represent. So I have been doing that as a performer, and I just started playing with a 12-piece rhythm and blues band. So I am very curious to get more up to date on the pedal board, which sounds like a Greek term to me at this time. As an educator, at the beginning of my career, I was an assistant professor at Auburn University while I was finishing my doctorate degree. And after I finished my doctorate degree, I went into public education with the Atlanta City School Systems, teaching orchestra to kids in some of the most challenged neighborhoods because I wanted them to have access to someone like myself who uh, played full time in a symphony orchestra and had experience that maybe those in the music education track didn't have. And I learned a lot about teaching. I learned a lot about uh, empathy, seeing where different people are coming from and why it's important to have an artistic outlet, especially in your developing years. And from that experience, I formed two, this is my second nonprofit, but I formed a nonprofit that worked with families and children called Torch Academy. Torch is an acronym for Together Orchestras Revitalize Community Harmony. And through that organization that lasted from 2011 to 2018, when we met our mission statement, we served about 200 children and their families from basically the most challenged, impoverished Atlanta neighborhoods. And we connected with some of the wealthiest. We literally had a concert, wealthiest Atlanta neighborhoods. We literally had a concert every year that involved children and their parents from both Bankhead and Buckhead, which are literally the poorest and richest communities, which ironically are almost adjacent to each other. So that was a wonderful experience. I brought in some well-known friends of mine to be the guest artists, and the benefit on both sides, it's still resounding, and it's something I'm very proud of. And a couple years back, since that disbanded, I took a moment to breathe, and then I had the activist itchies again, and was on this chat group for female basis. And I just said, well, why, you think you want to turn this into a bigger organization? And the consensus was, let's go for it. So here we are with League of Women Bass Players.
Wow, very nice. I'm gonna have a couple questions to ask you just on that answer, but let's throw it over to Susan.
Hi. So it's great to see Brittany in person here, sort of Zoom person, and to be here with Jacqueline. I'm a bass player in the Boston area, and I am a first call sub with the Boston Symphony and play with the Boston Pops. I am the principal double bassist of the Boston Pops Esplanade Orchestra, the first female to ever have that job. So it kind of makes me proud to be doing that. You know, it's very exciting. I teach at Berklee College of Music, which you might say, you just said you're a classical player. What are you doing teaching at Berklee? I'm the one that comes in and teaches everybody technique and healthy physical approach and setup to the instrument. And oh man, I love it. It's really fun. I actually just wrote a book of warm-ups and sort of, technique things that I published this January to sort of back up that work that I've been doing. But I'm so honored to team up with Jacqueline. She's a brilliant, brilliant woman with a heart of gold. And Low B is such an exciting group to be part of, just helping, I think, to encourage women, all non-male identifying people that are playing the bass that may have felt marginalized, and saying, hey, we can do this together, we're stronger when we support each other. And Jacqueline has the great idea of entrepreneurship and finding ways to not just help ourselves and not just help our group of people, but to help everyone, and find ways to be charitable and to just support and encourage and bring music and beauty into the world. And it's very exciting. During the pandemic, which I even hate to bring up, right? But as an orchestral player, I always had this stack of solo literature that I wanted to learn, and I started learning it and giving recitals online, which I'm still doing. And the ticket sales, there's a company that sponsored, airing my recitals, and they charge a ticket price, and every penny of it goes to me. And I thought, I don't need to do that. I want to do something better with that money. So every recital, I choose a couple of organizations to give the money, every penny from ticket sales, to different places. Food pantries, food has been a big challenge for people in the past couple of years, more so than usual. There was that devastating ice storm in Texas about a year ago. I sent money to the Houston Food Bank and different charities. And I bring this up because at the end of April, I have another recital where ticket sales are, of course, going to help Ukraine. But Low B, I want to help just sort of donate money to help this group get bigger, and it's just such an exciting project to be part of. So I'm honored to be here.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. What exactly is the League of Women Bass Players? It has grown out of a online chat, from what I understand, but what exactly is it?
Low B is an organization of like-minded people who support competent technicians, intelligent leadership, and articulate activists. We are here to bring all bass players together moving forward. We are focusing our perspective on the viewpoint of the woman bassist. That is Loki in a nutshell. We are here to inspire, support, and educate.
Susan, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Jacqueline sums it up so well. It's an incredible, supportive community, and every time we meet with the group planning this conference, I'm just blown away by the positivity of everybody and the idea that we're not here to serve ourselves. We're here to serve others and help others and support others. Musically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, ways to just sort of help motivate and encourage other people. I think our job as not the I've just gotten out of college generation is now to reach to that generation and help them. And also Jacqueline is always talking about going into the communities and helping others. When you help others musically, you help them in all aspects of their lives. And I just think that that's such an important and wonderful thing to do. So we have to give her the credit. She's the incredible mastermind. And all she said was, do you want to join me in this idea? And the way she described it, everybody said, yes, count me in. We want to be part of this. So it's very exciting to watch this group getting off the ground.
That's fantastic. So, from what I understand, this is an inaugural conference. It's happening, when is it? What are the dates?
June 2 through 5, in a couple of months. We will be online as we are a global organization connecting people who play the bass from the North American continent, from Oceania, and from Europe and Africa. June 2 through 5. And our times are based in the Eastern Daylight Time Zone. So the times are listed in Eastern Daylight Time. Go to your world clock to make that time change for your appropriate area. The conference will be in English, and hopefully we will find some translation into at least Spanish and Portuguese, but that is in the works now. And I think there's an app that does translation now, but the conference will be primarily in English.
So, is it for electric bases, double bases? Like, what can participants expect at the conference?
You can expect presenters who have proficiency on electric bass, on acoustic bass, on gut bucket bass, anything that is a bass instrument on the bottom line. We will have representation of that instrument, and we are very excited to present the bass in as many of its different forms as possible. Our primary instruments, though, are the electric bass and the acoustic bass, as symbolized by our logo, which was developed by both electric and acoustic bassists.
Nice. Anything to add to that, Susan?
I love to think of the group as being inclusive of everyone. Gender, race, whatever type of bass you play. Heck, you can even come if you don't play bass. You can be any instrumentalist if you're just interested. Come. Everyone is welcome and respected and appreciated. Everyone has a place. And that's one of the things I love is a real true feeling of community. We can all be brought together. And if you're not some sort of bass player, you're gonna be bitten by the bug. You're gonna realize that every kind of bass is amazing, and you're gonna want to be part of it. But everyone is welcome and wanted to be here.
So I asked this just for, I know some folks will be wondering this. So you say everyone is welcome. Is there an age range that's recommended? Anything like that?
The target group for Artists as Entrepreneur, our inaugural conference, may be considered the 18 to 25 year age group. That is our future generation of people who are committed to having a career in this craft. And they have already crossed the line to be committed. And we want to provide some context that will further expand their imagination, the 18 to 25 range. However, there is something in this conference that will richly benefit everyone. We have people who share the bass with toddlers as sort of a kindergarten program. May Halliburton from Scotland does a wonderful alter ego, presents a wonderful alter ego called Bessie Bass that reaches children 2 years and up and their parents to get the gentleness and the wonder that art brings. And she's doing it with the double bass. We have people like Alara Pattison, who is an Aboriginal, an Australian Aboriginal, Yorta Yorta, and she will be performing healing, how music is used as a spiritual healing force that is for everyone of all ages. And she is part of our panel on total health. So the demographic, the age group for that is all ages. We have experienced people like, I don't want to give too many of the artists away, but we have people who will talk about their artistry and how they integrate that artistry with other professions. You may be someone who, for example, a doctor or a lawyer, but you are also a serious double bassist. And how do you make those career choices work? And of course, as women, from a woman's perspective, that works for ages probably 30 and beyond, how do you balance being a mother, being a caregiver? Excuse me, I'm falling off my stool. How do you balance those aspects, which many of us have as women, because this is from a woman's perspective, but this can be for anybody who resonates with these responsibilities of being caregiver and artist. So the age range is from 2 years old to however far you may go.
Excellent, excellent. Susan, any additional thoughts on that?
Well, Jacqueline really hit all the marks there. I mean, you can be in America what we call elementary school, middle school, high school, not having decided that music is your path yet. But if you attend this, you may be inspired and you'll find ways perhaps to integrate that with other careers. Sometimes it's like, I want to work for a charitable nonprofit and find ways to integrate music with helping the community. I have students, adult students, one who is a medical writer and double bass player professionally, does both. Brilliant. And, I think it's wonderful for people to see that anyone can make music part of their lives. For this conference, you don't have to be a professional. You can be a kid. You can be an older kid. The people 25 and up, we can focus on how to help those younger. And I just think it's going to build a wonderful feeling of community and helping. And the recitalists, the panelists, the presenters, there is, like Jacqueline said, there's something for everybody in here. It's wonderful. It's exciting. And I can't wait. I'm going to be glued to the screen. I want to see all of it.
And I guess, Brittany, if you were doing a Venn diagram, you would probably see the word community come up a gazillion times by now. But community, moving forward as our society is making a major change, community is by far the number one resource that will benefit us in the paradigm that we're entering into. We must begin to be able to turn to the person at our side and look at them with confidence and just know they can do a task. That knowingness is produced by each one of us having the self-assurance in our ability to be able to contribute whatever special skills, whatever special gifts that we have. And that is what is going to be a major difference from the rather oppressive society that we are leaving at this time to the more integrated society that we are entering into. Our differences are what makes us strong and interdependent on each other. And community is where it starts.
Gotcha. The community word is a big one. Glad you touched on that. Next question for you. Is registration open? How do people register? What's the cost? That might be the next thing people are thinking about at this point, hearing about all this. So where do they go to register? How do we do that?
I'm done speaking.
She's passing the talking stick to you, Susan.
Oh, no. So we have a website, Low B International, and on it you can see everything you want to know so far about the conference. It has a list of sort of like the schedule, basically. And so you can see who's going to be doing what at what time. And as time ticks on, more things are being added. We're just finalizing things, but there's a lot to look at there. Plenty of recitals and presentations and panels, question and answer things. So like if you watch a recital, there'll be a Q&A later on so that you can interact with the recitalist, which is great because if we were able to all be in one place where this is worldwide, I think it's great to have this virtually so that people from all over the world can come to it. But you go to a concert, you go backstage, you talk to the artist. It's different when you're online, so Jacqueline thought of the great idea of having a Q&A where we can speak with people. It's so wonderful. Also on the page, there is a nice, I think, very clear list about what the prices are. And I say prices because we have different pricing options. We want everybody to be able to attend this. And if somebody is in a situation where they don't have a lot of money to spend, we don't want them to miss out. So we have different prices so that everybody can just be part of it. And I believe, Jacqueline, correct me if I'm wrong, attending the conference comes with a membership, which will eventually have sort of like a periodical or a journal, a publication. So there's to continue our feeling of community and working together. So everything, lowbinternational.org, everything is on the website. It's very clearly laid out. I hope that everyone looks at it and says, there's a price here I can afford and I can come to it. Tickets go from cheap to, donation charity level pricing. And I
want to interrupt you there, Susan.
Yes.
The actual cost of the conference is the first pricing, which is $300. We then put the pricing in increments down to $20. But if we're dealing with people all over the world, and $20 in Pretoria, South Africa is different than $20 in London, England. So you pay whatever you can, knowing that the price of the conference is $300. And if none of those work for you, please contact us and we will make it possible for you to come. We want everyone who wants to be there to be there.
That's awesome. So basically a sliding scale based on what you feel you can pay.
Correct.
Awesome. So why is the theme, and I'm just curious, is there a reason for artists as an entrepreneur versus, say, another topic?
As an introductory theme, I would have to say that was an executive decision. I felt that the way to start this conference would be to do something that weighs heavily on all of our mind as artists. And that is, how do I put my art in the world and also put food on the table? This is a profession that many people that we should not be compensated for. And as we move forward, we are finding that art has a meaningful place in the society of the future. And how I came to that conclusion was what I saw around me after the arts were closed down in 2020. And fortunately for me, being a principal player, the organizations that did opened up with small ensembles. And so I got back to work maybe a little earlier than most. There are still some people who aren't working, but the sheer emotion of the audiences who came, even though they had to be vaccinated and tested and show all sorts of, I was like, will anybody come to the concert? It was full of people. And I realized, oh my God, what I do is so important. And myself, I was crying at the first rehearsal. I remember it. We got together and we were doing Carnival of the Animals, and it was so emotional. Even though we're all masked up and whatever, and it just felt so good to be on stage. And I don't think it matters if you're in a concert hall or you're playing in another setting. The presentation of art, and I go into art, of music, is a spiritual bread and wine. It is a spiritual sacrament. And it is our connection to God. And our connection to God was broken. Whether you're religious or not, you can call it creator. But that connection was recognized. And that connection is what drives us as entrepreneurs. That connection to do something that is of our creation. Whether you are an atheist or not, there is a connection to creation. And that's why I chose artist as entrepreneur.
So, Susan, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, Jacqueline was talking about all of our performance venues were, as we knew them, were shut down, and the first time we were back playing together, for me it was with the Boston Pops Esplanade Orchestra with a 4th of July fireworks spectacular. It's a big deal in Boston, and it's televised around the world, actually. And we hadn't done it in 2020, of course. It just wasn't safe to do so. And last July 2021, we met at Symphony Hall for rehearsal. We did the concert out at Tanglewood, the Boston Symphony's summer home. And I'll never forget. Yes, it was great to see my colleagues, and it was exciting to be there. But we started our rehearsal with the Stars and Stripes Forever, which, of course, you think, Susan, you've played it probably 1,000 times. Seriously. Like, why are you crying? Everyone on the stage just had tears running down their faces into their masks because we had been apart from each other and not made music together in this large collective group. And here we are sitting at Symphony Hall in Boston playing something that normally we go, oh, okay, here we go. It's the end of the concert. We knew it signals that everyone's going to have a mad rush to the door. And yet we had this feeling of, I don't ever want to leave. And we were so excited. And I'll never forget that feeling because I felt like every day of my career have been thankful for every concert I've ever played. But I was never more grateful in such a deep way to be together playing with my colleagues and making music in a large group. And it was definitely spiritual for everyone on the stage and just bringing that all together. And I think that feeling of isolation that we all experienced during the lockdown portions of this pandemic made people think, how can I, some people like Jacqueline, how can I make the world a better place? And Jacqueline came up with this idea of Low B. And it was a wonderful way to bring us again all together. And even though, look at us right now, the three of us in different parts of the United States together, it's just wonderful. So the whole concept of artist as entrepreneur, bringing music and musicians beyond just playing notes on a page or playing gigs together in our daily lives, let's have a bigger picture of how to make the world a better place and work together to do so.
So, Susan, you recently published a book of warm-ups for double basses. Do you mind telling us more about that?
Oh, sure. So, actually, I have copies everywhere. I have a copy of it. I had professionally printed copies, but you can also get it as a PDF instant download, which is, you get it and it's sent to your inbox and you have it immediately, which is, I kind of like that because when I order music, I hate waiting for it. But for me, for years in my teaching, I have a very methodical way of helping my students have a comfortable for them physical approach to the instrument. And I always talk about how every one of us is strung together differently. And that's part of what's so exciting about it. But there's a good foundation that I feel we can start with a student to help them find the healthiest way to play the big old beast of an instrument that we all love so much. So I've been a guest at, summer festivals or going into a college and giving a master class. And a lot of times I find that what really I need to deal with is the foundation for people. Also at Berklee College of Music, many of my students were originally and still are electric bass players. And I want to help them make that transfer from this to that. So I've sort of written out all these little exercises over the years, and I jot them into my students' notebooks, and every now and then I'd think, oh, I'm so brilliant. I'm going to put it on stickers so that it's pre-written, and I don't have to waste their lesson time and just stick it in their notebook. But several people, Galen McCormick being one of them in Rochester, have always said to me, why isn't this published? We need this. And I'd say, well, we have so many etude books out there. Who needs another one? But several people were saying to me, this isn't a normal etude book. This is what you do before you play your etudes. This is, I pick up my bass, I tune it, and then what do I do? So many people just start playing, and then they get injured. So during the pandemic, several people, David Hayes, Galen McCormick, a couple others said to me, you gotta do this. And they just kind of pushed me to the point where I felt embarrassed for not having done it already. So David Hayes helped me typeset the actual exercises that are in there I am terrible with that portion of creating music. I can jot it down on a piece of manuscript paper, but I can't get it to look like that. I stink with Finale and Sibelius and all those programs. So David typeset them for me, and I sat in my car between Boston Pop's holiday concerts this past December and would write out my information. And it looks like a lot of words, but it's pretty succinct, and it talks about several things you need to think about when you're playing. And each exercise just sort of builds off of each other. Each exercise warms up a different part of your hand and deals with different shifting things that we have to do. For me, the beginning of this book, the first 4 exercises, I call it my warm-up quartet. And I do them every single day. I have since I was, right after college. The first one that's in the book I always did since I was about 10. My first teacher gave it to me, and she had gotten it from Ed Barker, the principal bass player of the Boston Symphony. When I went to college, I studied with Ed Barker, and he said, I'd like you to learn the left-hand chromatic warm-up. And I said, I think I already know it. And I was so proud of myself. And I found that any technique I ever wanted to work on, anything I wanted to fix, tweak, change, I could do it in that warm-up. But I also found that when I assigned it to students as the left-hand chromatic warm-up, everyone glazed over on their face. And then the next week I'd say, so did you practice your left-hand chromatic warm-up? And they'd be like, ugh, no. And I thought, why are they not learning this? This is so helpful. And I was talking to my mom, who's a piano teacher, incredible musician. And I said to her, what's going on? Students don't want to learn this anymore. And she said, oh, you mean that thing that sounds like neener, 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 neener? I said, yeah. And she said, why don't you call it something cute, like neener, neener? And I thought, well, I'll experiment with repackaging the original product and just giving it a new name. And I kind of felt like a cheat because it's the same material. But I'll tell you, what I just saw from Brittany and Jacqueline, there's always a little laugh and a smile. and everybody practices it. So I decided if it can have a kind of goofy, silly name, from my youngest student that I've ever had to my students who are in their 70s, everybody practices it, and they do so with a smile. So the name stuck. And I decided to publish what I call my warm-up quartet, the 4 warm-ups I do every single day, and then a few more after that to get people rolling. You can modify everything in there to suit your needs. There are infinite, endless possibilities how to alter each exercise so you never get bored with it. So you think, wow, there's 8 warm-ups, big whoop. But each warm-up has multiple bowings, multiple articulations and rhythms, and you can put it on a different string. You can do all sorts of things with it. And so obviously I'm very excited about the book. It's not so much that I am proud that I wrote a book. It's more like I'm excited that I can share this with more people, because I have found with my students it's been really helpful. And as I've done with my solo recitals, of which I've done 8 or 9 since March of 2020, and my ticket prices all go to charity, I'm donating the proceeds from my books to charities or organizations that I find worthy. Low B. Relief efforts for the people in Ukraine. Things that are current. 6 months from now, if the book is still selling, there might be other organizations that I find might need some help. And so this is my way. I'm not great at going out to a picket line, or during COVID, you won't see me helping physically in a food pantry. I'm sorry. It's just not something I'm comfortable with. I have too many people that I work with closely that if I brought anything to them germ-wise, it would be terrible. But I can do this. I can donate the proceeds from the things that I do to help those that are braver than I and going out and helping. So I just, I'm excited about the book, and I want it to help bass players, and then I also want that in turn to help other people by donating the proceeds from the sales of the book. But I'm very excited about it because it was out of my comfort zone. And to tie into Low B, I'll tell you, I just received an email this week from a female double bassist on the West Coast, and she said to me, I'm so excited to have your book because it's the first technique book I've ever seen written by a woman. And I actually stopped and thought that through, and I realized I've never had a technique book by a woman either. I hadn't even thought of it. It wasn't like, here comes Susan trying to break some barrier down. It was just like, here's Susan wanting to put all of this material in one place and let people have access to it. Galen McCormick has written a couple of bowing exercise books. Other than that, I haven't come across much else by women either. So
For acoustic players.
Yes, for double bass, it's definitely not just classical, because I teach all kinds of musicians at Berkeley. It's really great. But yeah, for acoustic double bass players, I haven't come across a lot of technique books or warm-up books or etude books or any of that sort of music for them. So that was a happy accident.
And just as a tie-in to contributions, which Susan has so richly gifted us, the idea from a woman's perspective and connecting us, and that word again, community, we have people, we have women who have published books in other genres. And you're going to learn about those people at Low B. Going back to our history, we started out as mostly acoustic, classically trained double bassists who were affiliated in some way with academia. And one of the first things we realized is that we need to expand our horizons like yesterday. And so this conference is dedicated to high standards but with the premise that these high standards can be achieved through different processes. And you will see that at the conference. Our richness is amplified by our differences.
I'll put a link to where they can go get the book. Is it on Amazon?
It's on Double Bass Blog Publications, which is Jason Heath's double bass music publishing. But I also, on my website, or if people email me if they want a hard copy, I have those in my possession and send them out. I haven't gone beyond that yet, although I'm thinking I should probably approach Amazon. I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, I can send you the links of how people can get it, and I'll send you a PDF of like the first exercise instructions and music and things like that. They're happy to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll work that out with Corey and see how we can offer that.
Cool. Oh, thank you.
Okay, you've both been in the music industry for some time. And being a musician is usually a life of self-employment. I know you're in education, but if you're doing gigs and all that, they go, book those gigs. We're working for ourselves, especially if you're putting books out. It takes a lot of days and motivation and the ability to be a self-starter. So how do you both stay motivated and inspired to put in the hours?
How do I stay motivated to put in the hours? To me, what I do, and I'm sure it's the same for both you, Brittany, and Susan, it's like breathing. It is an extra part of who I am. It is that spiritual part of me that maybe doesn't appear in the physical, but the artist is certainly very close in that energy lining that, surrounds one's essence. I can't even imagine a day where music isn't included. It would be like imagining a day without drinking water, without breathing air. And the confirmation comes that I'm doing something beneficial when I hear from former students or neighbors or acquaintances or members at a church. I play in the orchestra at the First Baptist Opelika Church, and it's when I'm away, it's like I come back the next week and they're saying, "We missed you. Where were you last week?" And I mean, this is Alabama. When they say that, they mean it. They just don't say anything they don't mean. And even the pastor came by one day and it's like, "My wife said, where were you last week?" So it really is for me. And again, I'm taking it from being a musician to the whole concept of how being an artist, because I think you can burn out from being a musician. I certainly burned out early in my career when I had a chance to spend the rest of my life in a full-time orchestra. And I sincerely was not happy. And we got to stop this. And so it stopped. And I was able within the next year to find how I could fit in the symphonic niche, because I do love my Mendelssohn and Haydn and Mussorgsky just like anyone else who loves that art form. I needed to find balance. And I learned that very early on from many different perspectives, that balance is what keeps me motivated. And when I am in that sense of equilibrium, I can move on. As Susan has seen, I have a permaculture, they call it, when I was growing up, they just called it a backyard, but now it's called permaculture. And we have fruit. I don't have the chickens, but I have trees and plants, and some I grow well, some I don't do so good with, but there's animals and then the wild foods that grow. And I do that often early in the mornings, and that helps me keep balance. And it keeps me motivated because I have that connection with nature, that connection with the Creator, that connection with God. And it keeps me empathetic in a profession that, if we compartmentalize our perspective onto just a very small niche, and we have to do this as part of being competent in our craft, but if we do that exclusively, I can see where one could burn out and not be motivated.
Again, so well said.
How about you, Susan? What are your thoughts? Any tips?
Well, I think Jacqueline's totally right. We can burn out easily, I think, because most of us who pursue music in any form, we're passionate about it. We didn't get into it to become millionaires. We got into it because it's our life's blood. It's what makes us tick, and we love it. And for me, I always consider myself a performer first, an educator second, and concerts were, if you looked at my calendar, were the larger portion of what I was doing with my time. And I put that in past tense because when COVID started and my concerts shut down, I thought, even felt like, who am I? Right? I was still able to teach, but I wasn't able to perform. I had 3 concert tours canceled. I had so many weeks of orchestral playing canceled. I can't even count it. It was overwhelming. And it really caused me to soul search. Who am I? What makes me tick? Well, I'm a musician. I'm a classical double bassist. What am I going to do to get through these couple weeks of lockdown? They turned into much more than that. But remember that when we thought it would be like maybe 3 or 4 weeks and it would be good. And so I thought projects. And then I realized this is what has always kept me going. I always have a project. Sometimes 5 or 6 or 7 projects. But I get up and I eat breakfast, right? We all eat. To me, playing my bass is as important as eating. And although I might take a day off here and there, although I've never taken a day off from eating ever, it's just part of what I do with my day. So I developed projects, and I would say to anyone who is feeling burnt out or feeling like they're losing their way, just get a reset for yourself. Take a weekend and think about what it is that you love, what it is that you haven't gotten to do that you've always wanted to do, or that you've done but not done enough of, and just apply yourself to that. And as an orchestral player, I hadn't given many recitals since I was done with grad school. I think I started giving recitals at Berkeley when I started teaching there maybe 3 years before the pandemic, and I thought, this is horrifying and fun, but I'll do one a year. It's good for me, and I figured the school would probably like that I was doing that too. So when the pandemic hit, I decided to ramp it up. And at first, when we thought this was just going to be a few weeks of chaos, I did a project that I called A Piece a Day, and Peace. Because we were all, I don't know, maybe it was just me and the people I was encountering, but I feel like everyone was frazzled and nervous and confused about what was going on in the world, what was happening. And I heard so many of my students saying, why am I even studying in college right now? I'm going to graduate and go out into the world to gig? Is that even going to happen? So I thought, okay, there's all this music on my shelves in my room, in this room here, that I've always wanted to look at and see if it was any good. So every day I would choose one piece. I would spend an hour learning it, and then I would record it. and I put it on the Berkeley Bass Department Facebook page for my students. And it was really just for them, thinking, each piece was usually about 3 minutes. Some were shorter, some were longer. Bring you 3 minutes of peace, listening to this glorious instrument that I love so much. And my students were getting excited, and they'd email me, I want to learn that piece that you did yesterday, and that sort of a thing. I did, I think, 27 recordings in about 35 days, to the point where I was getting tired. It was the end of the semester, and my husband and my whole family said to me, are you going to slow down? And I said, well, I'm not rehearsing and performing with the orchestras like I normally do. I got to keep playing. And they said, yeah, but maybe it's a lot to juggle while learning how to work remotely with teaching and everything. But for me, that was the project that started all of this exciting exploration into solo repertoire. That was just what happened to me. I still consider myself an orchestral player. But now I've expanded, and I'm not afraid of the solo repertoire. I'm excited to learn it and to perform it. And it's, I think, developed a different side, I hope, of my artistry. And so I would say to other people, just dig deep. What would make you happy? And, get up, play your bass. Play whatever you want on your bass, or on whatever instrument is your instrument. This goes beyond just bass players. And just find the joy, the connection to the earth, your connection to God, your connection to music, your connection to yourself. And what really makes you happy, what type of music. And make time for it every day. No matter how busy your life gets, don't forget to reconnect with that thing that makes you tick. So for me, it's a project. I love to have a project.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break in on you, Susan.
Go for it.
I just wanted to piggyback on that before Brittany got to the next question. A part of our conference is about finding that which nourishes you to keep motivated. And this conference is, by all means, even though it's focusing on the instrument of the double bass, we're talking about artistry. Anyone would find a really interesting place for their ken of being creative in our organization. So we hope that just because you don't play bass, but you might be bass curious, that you will come and join us.
Dangerous question for you ladies. Feel free to say pass. I want to ask it because I feel like we should, especially as female artists, what is something you are not getting credit for that you should absolutely be getting credit for? And saying pass is an absolutely fine answer.
Pass.
I want to say pass. That's a complex question. I think one of the things why we're going to lean towards saying pass is because as women, sometimes standing up for ourselves is misinterpreted. But over the past 10 or 15 years, I've gradually tried to learn how to diplomatically speak up for myself in ways that won't ruffle feathers or make major waves. And I don't know that I deserve credit for anything, but I hope that Jacqueline and I and many of the other women at this conference have been people who are putting little chinks in that glass ceiling, little chipping away at it a tiny bit, so that little pieces are starting to fall, so the women behind us get a huge opportunity to just blast through that whole glass ceiling and make that not exist anymore. And so I'm not sure that I personally deserve credit, but I think my generation and the women who are 10, 20, 30 years older than me and the women who are probably 10, 15 years younger than me have all been working towards that as a group collectively, putting little chips in that ceiling and learning how to maybe speak up for ourselves, to not necessarily get credit, not necessarily to defend ourselves, just speak up for ourselves, put us on the level of being equals without turning this into a huge, female empowerment thing. But that is something. People of marginalized anything, races, genders, sexual identity, everything, all of this needs to be, we all need to keep pushing forward at it. So I just think, instead of saying pass, I'll say we're all trying to move our group forward.
Fantastic answer. I ask that because I get some very interesting answers sometimes based on people's experiences and points of view, and sometimes it gives them a talking stick they didn't expect they were going to have handed to them. So it's not necessarily meant to be a rage against the patriarchy kind of question. It's more of a, if you've wanted to talk about something and get it off your chest, here's your chance. But that was one of the most eloquent answers I've had to that question. Thank you.
Yes, Susan.
So ladies, any final thoughts for our interview today?
In conclusion, I would like to say that I am so grateful that you took time out of your schedule, Brittany, to speak with us and to provide for us a platform to share this idea of low B. And I hope that if you are listening to this, your curiosity has been piqued to come over to our website and check us out and hopefully join us.
Yeah, I think together we are stronger. The feeling of community, not just women, men, women, everybody together. And I've heard a couple of comments saying, oh, low B, it's like girls' night at the movies. That's not it at all. This is not a complaining session and a chance to become bitter or talk about our bad experiences. That's not what this is. This is a chance to listen, to participate, to learn from each other, and again, that sense of community. Together we are stronger. We should learn how, and I think a lot of people are learning this, to appreciate each other's differences. That's what makes us a wonderful community. I think the base community is really good at doing this and will continue to get better at doing this. And I think that the Low B conference is just a wonderful way for people who don't know each other to get to know each other, to get to talk about amazing things about the bass and about music and about helping the world. And I feel like the motto for me is together we are stronger. To not just respect, but appreciate and admire each other.
Nice. I'm looking forward to the concert, networking, and meeting all the wonderful people there. So I highly encourage our viewers, go over the website, check out the panelists, the presenters. They've got some wonderful folks on tap for this event.
May I interject? I'm going to interject anyway. I wanted to mention that two of our featured soloists are here. Miss Brittany Frompovich and Miss Susan Hagen. Did I say it right? Copenhagen. I love ice cream. Sorry, dear. Miss Susan Hagen will present recitals, and They are just phenomenal performers and very, very modest in their just overall presence as artists. Uh, I wouldn't miss either one of those recitals. I wouldn't miss anything on this conference. It is going to be amazing. I just had to say you were a recitalist, Brittany and Susan.
Thank you,
Jack.
Jacqueline. Thank you. Yeah, we've got a lot of really great people from what I see on the schedule, so I invite people to go over, take a look, check out their website, check out some of the artists and presenters that are going to be there. It's going to be a good time. So, ladies, I thank you both for taking time out of your schedules. I know, Susan, you've got some stuff going on. You got to get out of here. Jacqueline, thank you for joining us as well. And we're going to call this a wrap on this month's edition of Wonder Women, Stories from the Women Who Play Bass. Thank you, ladies. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
See you later.